freight train all night. This isn't bad at all. Just see those clouds moving. Alright, this is my camp. It's worked out pretty well. I've been very snug and warm in there. I've got the JRB 11x10 tarp and rig it up into closed door mode, of course. And what's really nice is these tabs on the side. I put S-beaners in there and I can close up the doors a little bit more if I want, or leave them open for ventilation. That works really well. So here's my setup. Got my pulk just on the ground behind my hammock, kind of under it so it's out of the way. And I use the Sear Designs grip clips, and they have little hooks on the inside. They're made for hooking to the tent poles, but they make great little hangers for things. Alright, so here's the inside of my rig. I just pulled back the tarp, make it easier to get in here. Blackbird hammock. That's a Thermarest pillow, and it worked pretty well. It's really good for insulation up at the head too. But plenty of room back here in the shelf for stuff. And I just ended up leaving the shelf inside my hammock sock. We'll get to here in a minute. I made that. So underneath me is trucker's windshade. I really like that. It adds a lot of warmth. It had some condensation, but on the coldest nights it's not too bad, as long as I don't overheat. That seems to be the biggest key. If I overheat, I really get a lot of condensation under there. So as long as I try to ventilate, I do all right. Under that is an EVA, Gossamer Gear EVA 1/4-inch pad. I got the wide one. I just cut it wide enough to fit my shoulders. Kind of a big guy, so my shoulders end up pushing out past my underquilt sometimes. But most of the time it's all right. Underneath is the Tiwa winter coat quilt. It's got a lot of loft there. It's a really great bag. Very warm. I ended up switching out the suspension. If anybody saw my video from last year, I had taken a line up to carabiner and then over. Seemed to work pretty well, but the shock cord was a little too small to hold it, so I just went with larger shock cord, sewed some channels down each end, and gave it a Yeti type suspension, and that worked really well. That tends to really keep it up on my shoulder really well, and I can move it wherever I want it fairly easy. Underneath that is a sock that I made, and it's got Insultex. Kind of modeled after McIntyre's sock, but not nearly as good. But it worked really well for me. It blocked a lot of wind and held in some warmth. Across the bottom is just one layer of Insultex. I didn't really need extra insulation there. Where I needed it was on the side, and I put 2 layers here and 2 layers up under my head. And that seemed to help a lot. Just enough, actually. I don't think I'd want a bigger sock in my bag. This one's plenty big as it is. Suspension, similar to the Yeti suspension, I have some shock cord here that I can snug it up however tight I want it, to keep it drawn up around me, and then I just loop it over the top knot on the Blackbird, just like the Yeti suspension does. Same thing down here. I just have that looped around there. These are just some extra tails from the perimeter shock cord that I just left them long just as I was finishing it, and I decided it'd be nice just to be able to tie that up if I needed to snuggle up a little bit more. And I still use my vest around the foot box. That just works really, really well. I still clip up the armhole with a binder clip, and I don't know if my last video showed this, but I use on each side, attached to the tie-out loops, I attach a clip like you would have on like an ID tag clip, and I just clip it to the vest just to hold it there. And so I just get a little tiny gap there that doesn't really seem to bother me. That's right at my knees, so they don't push down against that at all. Plus with the pad inside, that I don't have any trouble. If I put some clothing in a bag, put under my knees, it'd take care of that, any kind of problem at all. So, but I didn't do that this trip, and I didn't have any trouble. Okay, so my bag is a Go Light. I think it's a Venture 0 degree. Super warm. It actually can be kind of a problem if it's not cold enough, because I overheat in it so much. Last 2 nights I did not overheat at all. It got down to -2 is what somebody recorded the night before last. Last night it got down to 9. Those temperatures were really good for this bag. When I've had it in 20 or so degrees, it's just, I wake up roasting hot and sweaty. So these cold temperatures, this is a really good bag for that. Believe it or not, I find that it's cooler if I get in the bag, because I can ventilate more easily. When I have it in quilt mode, piled on top of me, it really tends to block off a lot of ventilation, and I can't ventilate as easily. So I climb in it on warmer nights and drape it over me on colder nights, and it seems to work a lot better.